we watch the parade of the machines that won the war, that is the T-34s, up to the modern vehicles, it shows us the technological evolution of the Russian army. And it inspires us as well to get to work so that we can develop in the same direction. Relations are going very well. And I can say that for the past 2 years now, things have started off very well. And we are working on deepening the areas of defense and security, but also education, and later on, the commercial sector and other aspects. So we have staggered the different areas so that we can exchange a lot and share many experiences, because we also have a lot to learn from Russia in the field of education, especially in the sciences. Now, it must be said that up to today, culture in motion. First, for self-sufficiency, share many experiences, because we also have a lot to learn from Russia in the field of education, especially in the sciences. Now, it must be said that up to today, gold is the main export product in Burkina Faso. But we have set agriculture in motion. First, for self-sufficiency, but also for foreign trade and export. The terrorists are reinforced by many foreign fighters who come from elsewhere, who are not, in fact. If I take the case of Burkina Faso, there are many criminals in Burkina Faso, but they are not Burkinabe. There are also trainers who come from many countries to teach them a lot of techniques.
But what is their interest?
It's not really terrorism, it's imperialism. Their goal is to keep us in a state of permanent war, so that we cannot develop and so they can continue to plunder our resources. So they have every interest in bringing in specialists in mines to lay various types of mines and explosives experts. Today, the terrorists use drones to fight and everything. So these are professionals from certain countries who come to teach them all of this. All of this is to keep us in a state of insecurity.
True.
But we are aware of the situation. We adapt each time to their methods of operation, and we will continue the fight until we have recovered the entirety of the Sahel. So all the countries that are fighting to independence, we are trying to collaborate better with these countries, because it is a form of oppression by imperialism. It is necessary for those who are oppressed to unite in order to confront this hegemony. So we are moving forward gradually. There are many structures to put in place, and there are many areas that need to be upgraded in the three countries. Because as you know, from an economic standpoint, we are not at the same level. And from a military perspective, there are many aspects to consider. We need to try to balance things out.
True.
And so this requires the establishment of many structures and numerous meetings. And free movement requires a certain number of parameters to be put together. You must have seen that we did a lot of work to come up with, a single security document for travel and everything. So it's evolving and things are going very well. I think they themselves contributed to diminishing their own influence,
True.
because they have a paternalistic view of our relationship. You see, whenever you look at everything we do, every initiative we take, it's always about Russia. Someone speaks and they say they're influenced by Russia. Everything that happens, it's Russia. Why do they have their eyes closed like that? So Africans aren't capable of developing anything. Africans aren't capable of inventing, innovating, or taking initiatives. That's what we're fighting against. And look at their speeches. Look at their speeches. Even the French president, always in his speeches, says that young Africans are influenced by Russia. It said, and if you listen to Western media, they spend all their time lying. And look today, the AES, which is a model that's starting to take shape, they can't go a single day without talking about Burkina or the AES. It's impossible for them. And every time they try to spread information, to divide, to manipulate the youth. But it doesn't work anymore. I think people are aware enough. Now people have their eyes open. Through communication, they managed to rewrite history. And as for African history, they schemed everything to spread lies. As a result, some young Africans don't even know the history of Africa or what Africa has accomplished.
True.
Some don't even know that our grandparents were put on the front lines as cannon fodder. And when they returned, they were killed like animals. Do people know that when France tested its first atomic bomb. It was black soldiers they placed nearby in the blast radius to see what would happen.
I didn't know.
Let's bring out the archives. Everything they've used against Africa is terrible. So all of this needs to be communicated so that young Africans understand, because there are still many who are asleep
True.
and continue to speak on behalf of the imperialists. Whatever they're told to say, they do it. Maybe it's because, well, they're given something, I don't know. That what they're doing is very dangerous. And today, more than ever, I realize that they have conditioned the minds, especially of Africans. So you can play a big role in awakening the consciousness of young people so that people understand how the world works and don't let themselves be led astray by those people.
Being here for the 80th anniversary of the victory over Nazism and having taken part in yesterday's parade, as well as some cultural events the day before, has been a truly insightful experience. It has taught us many things, prompting deep reflection and inspiring us to revitalize the African continent. Today, many peoples are fighting for their survival, for their sovereignty, to live in peace. And the Sahel is part of this zone, where imperialism is manifesting itself very violently. And with everything we are experiencing, I hope that we can honor the memory of all those fighters who gave themselves body and soul and who preceded us in the afterlife in this fight against imperialism, against neocolonialism. I ask you, therefore, to observe a minute of silence.
After the
I will take a few examples during my speech to elaborate on the substance of my thought. Here we are at Mendel University. Everyone has studied Mendel for those who did scientific studies. And I will give you a little anecdote. During my school career, there are people who do not like certain things and who cannot learn certain things. So when they cannot do it, they are nicknamed after the scientist who invented the thing. For example, we had people called Pavlov. We had people called Mendeleev. I love science. I am a scientist. I loved science so much that at any time, if you wake me up and ask me to recite Mendeleev's table, I have it in my head like that. It's the same with the chemical equations that we spend time balancing since high school. We are very strong. When on paper we are asked to balance a chemical equation, we do it. When in thermodynamics we are asked to calculate the standard enthalpy of formation of a body, we do it. This is to tell you that practice is very important, and we lack these laboratories to do the practice in our countries. For example, we are at war, we pay for equipment, we pay for ammunition, weapons and everything. And when I take the ammunition, the explosives and everything, Mali produces cotton, Burkina produces it, Niger produces it. But you know that it is the cotton cellulose that is transformed to make powder and explosives.
I didn't know.
Why can't we succeed in doing it? Because we lack practical chemistry. I think, still in the same vein, you see all the types of missiles that the Russian Federation can develop. And the latest one is shaking the whole world, which does not like the Avia. But the fuel of all these missiles is chemistry. Can we practically create this fuel and try to create an engine to propel a rocket or a missile? There are so many examples that we cannot finish citing, but it is to tell you that you have the chance to be here, I would say, at the origin of chemistry and mathematics. Because in Russia, there have been scientists in these fields, whether it is physics, chemistry, or mathematics. But as the representative said, history has been deceived, and it is made to understand that Russians are not strong in certain areas. Others have written history. They say they are strong. But I think that today, history shows us that everything is false. There are many scientists here. The origin is here. The first Mendeleev who created this table. I summarize. The matter is Russian. So take advantage of learning practically, so that it serves our countries. When a country is weak, it is doomed to disappear in this predatory world. We must be strong, and today the countries that are nuclear are strong. They never lose a war. But the nuclear bomb, where you have all done atomic physics, is certain. You are told that it is a neutron that strikes a nucleus that divides the energy. We know the equation, but how to enrich, even to change the isotope, how to enrich, how to do it practically. So take advantage of learning, because we need you to develop the country.
Comrade President Vladimir Putin, Comrade President of the African States, Comrade Head of Delegation, good morning, good morning. It is an honor for me this morning to speak here and to give you the fraternal greeting of the people of the country of the whole. It is also the place for me, first of all, to give thanks to God, Almighty God, who has allowed us to meet here this morning in good health to speak of the future and well-being of our peoples. Comrades, I have some questions from my generation, 1,001 questions that we ask ourselves, but we have no answer. And it so happens that here we can wash our dirty linen because we feel like a family. We feel like a family in the sense that Russia is also a family for Africa. It is a family because we have the same history. Russia has made enormous sacrifices to free the world from Nazism during the Second World War. The African people, our grandfathers, were also deported by force to help Europe get rid of Nazism. We share the same history in the sense that we are the forgotten people of the world. Whether it is in history books, in documentaries, or in films, we tend to sweep away the role played by Russia and Africa in this fight against Nazism. We are together because we are here to talk about the future of our peoples, about what will happen tomorrow, about this free world that we aspire to, about this world without interference in our internal affairs. We have the same perspectives, and I hope that this summit will be an opportunity to forge very good relations in the light of a better future for our peoples. The questions that my generation ask themselves are the following, if I may sum up. It is to not understand how Africa, with so much wealth on our soil, with a generous nature, water, sun, in abundance, is today the poorest continent. Africa is a hungry continent. And how is it that our heads of state are crossing the world to beg?
Imagine.
These are the questions that we ask ourselves, and to which we have no answer so far. We have the opportunity to forge new relations, and I hope that these relations can be the best to give a better future to our peoples. My generation is also responsible for saying that because of poverty, they are forced to cross the ocean to try to rally Europe. They die in the ocean, but soon enough, they will not cross because they will come to our palaces to seek their daily food. As far as Burkina Faso is concerned, we have been confronted for more than 8 years with the most barbaric and violent forms of neo-colonialism and imperialism. Slavery still has a lot to impose on us. Our forefathers taught us one thing. The slave who is not able to assume his revolt does not deserve to be pitied for his fate. We do not pity ourselves for our fate. We do not ask anyone to pity themselves for our fate. The Burkina Faso people have decided to fight against the terrorist threat in order to revive its development. In this struggle, valiant people, valiant populations have committed themselves to take up arms against terrorism, which we have affectionately called the VDP, the Volunteers. We are surprised to see imperialists treating the VDP as a militia of all kinds. It is disappointing because in Europe, when people take up arms to defend their country, they are treated as patriots. Our grandfathers were deported to save Europe. It was not with their consent, against their will. And when they came back, we remember well that in Traore, when they wanted to claim their basic rights, they were massacred. This does nothing. When we, the people, decide to defend ourselves, we are treated as militia. But that is not the problem. The problem is to see African heads of state who bring nothing to these people who fight, but who sing the same song as the imperialists, treating us as militia, treating us as men who do not respect human rights. What human rights are we talking about? We oppose this, and it is shameful. We, African heads of state, must stop behaving like puppets who dance every time the imperialists pull the strings. Yesterday, President Vladimir Putin announced the shipment of cereals to Africa. We are very happy. We say thank you for this. But it is also a message to us, African heads of state, because at the next forum, we must not come here without assuring, for those who do not know the war, the self-sufficiency of our people. We must take the experience of those who have already achieved this in Africa, build good relations here, and build better relations with the Russian Federation in order to meet the needs of our populations. I will not be long. Time is running out. We must stop at some point. But I would like to finish by saying that we must therefore pay tribute to our peoples who fight. Glory to our peoples, dignity to our peoples, victory to our peoples. The country or death, we will win.
It is not enough to have in Africa such big countries and powerful countries as South Africa or Nigeria or Ethiopia or the other. So there are many serious and strong African countries, but they are incomparable in front of the other poles. In order to grant to Africa the real sovereignty, or that could be comparable with the other pole, we need to unify Africa. And that the relevance and central place of Pan-Africanist movement appears here. From the very beginning of anti-colonial struggle of African people, the best minds of African continent, Leopold Senghor, Krume, Sheikh Anta Diop, and many others, they dreamed about this unified Africa, Africa that will transcend the artificial post-colonial borders, cutting the tribes, the ethnic groups, the cultures, ancient African political entities, and imposing the colonial rules for the post-colonial Africa. So we need to think about how to help to the Africa to become independent pole, the big space, how unite Africa on the spiritual level, on the economical level, on the financial level, on the security level. So we need greater Africa. After political decolonization, the colonial presence of the ex-colonial powers is still here in the mind of African people. So there is a kind of colonization of minds, because colonial powers coming out from Africa, they have left here their political ideas, liberalism, nationalism, their economical system, capitalism, market society, their cultural patterns that now embedded in the anti-human tradition of LGBT, post-humanism, and so on. And so the ex-masters and slave traders of the West, they are still controlling the African minds, political, cultural, social, economic minds, ruling Africa in the indirect way. So in order to get free, to liberate Africa from the colonial heritage, you need to make the final move for African liberation and decolonization of mind. And decolonization of mind could not happen only in one African country taken separately. So in order to re-establish the dignity of African culture, our tectonic African culture, we need to work together, to bring together different African people and to create greater Africa basing on African spirit, on African idea of anti-colonial, post-colonial, somehow pre-colonial identity. You know that your people, African people, suffered many years, the centuries from the Western colonialism. So many dead, so many enslaved people, so many suffering, violence, rape, humiliation of African identity. And you have passed through all these proofs, attitude as the colonial masters have exercised against your heroic and rich, spiritually rich people. It is not African way to respond. I think the best revenge of the Africa is to make Africa great, greater than before, to unite Africa, to show the example of flourishment and prosperity of independent African pole, civilizational state of Africa. So I think that will be the revenge if you show your ex-colonizers the best, the better way out of the present global crisis that the West is drowned in. So I think to restoration of the African greatness, the African dignity, that will be the best answer for those who tried to keep the African population as the slaves, as the subhuman. And the West could not recognize fully its crime because they tried to control still, to impose their rules, their principles, their values in African continent. And they don't help in the reality to the African revival. And they still exploit that special African character, very mild, very subtle, in order to continue to exploit African people, in order to liberate Africa and to create its place, its natural place, organic place in the multipolar world. We need to liberate Africa from any kinds of colonization, and first of all, from colonization of minds. And in that sense, Russia, as the country that never participated in colonial adventure of the West, never had any colony in Africa, Russia stays now at your side. We support you fully, and I hope and I believe that the same attitude will be confirmed from all our multipolar friends, from China, making many efforts to revival African economy, African industry, transport system. The same attitude we expect from India, from Islamic states, from Latin America. So the multipolar club, it is full of the friends of the Africa, sincere and faithful. And I think that together we will overcome, and we, with Africa and relying on Africa, we will create the multipolar world. So the African continent should be united in the transport systems, and maybe making its own currency, Pan-African currency. We need to find the new identity to unite different ethnical and religious and cultural groups of Africa. So we need to make this African unity inclusive and not exclusive. We need to accept all kinds of identities, all kinds of traditional values of different tribes, ethnical groups, nations. And I think that is the challenge. We need to make Africa economically sovereign, culturally independent from...
Continue. If you love what we do here on this channel and would like to support us, then you might consider gifting us a super thanks donation of any amount.
To the king. People are not subscribed. Please subscribe. And
yeah, man, give thanks for that, man. Subscribe and have a wonderful day. Thank you for staying to the end.